'Tis the season to be jolly weird, as ancient pagan Yuletide festivities come to life, marking the shortest day and the turning of the tide against the dread of winter. These ancient customs have merged seamlessly with many practices and beliefs that people see as being synonymous with Christmas traditions. This video is a compilation of my previous work on this subject and takes in Alpine, Norse, Slavic and Germanic mythology and customs. So join me for a sleigh ride into a snowy world of ancient folklore. Krampus, a creature of Alpine folklore, has a rich and intriguing history dating back centuries. The origins of Krampus can be traced to pre-Christian pagan traditions in the Alpine region of Europe, particularly in Austria, Germany and parts of Switzerland. The name Krampus is derived from the Old High German word Krampen, meaning claw. This horned anthropomorphic figure is often described as a demonic counterpart to St. Nicholas, who rewards well-behaved children with gifts during the Christmas season. The earliest known written record of Krampus dates back to the 17th century in a Bavarian handbook on witchcraft. In Alpine communities, the celebration of Krampus is deeply rooted in pagan rituals and winter solstice festivities. The figure is believed to represent the chaos and unruliness of the winter season. As Christianity spread throughout the region, attempts were made to suppress Krampus-related traditions, but the dark figure persisted, adapting to coexist with Christian celebrations. One key aspect of Krampus lore is his association with December the 5th, known as Krampusnacht or Krampus Night. On this night it is believed that Krampus roams the streets, punishing misbehaving children. In some regions, people dress up as Krampus and participate in parades, embracing the darker side of the holiday season. The physical appearance of Krampus is consistent across various depictions. He is often portrayed as a fearsome goat-like creature with fur-covered body, horns, hooves, and a long, pointed tongue. Chains are also a common accessory, symbolizing the binding of the devil. Krampus is also known to carry a bundle of birch branches or a whip, which he uses to swat or frighten disobedient children. The relationship between St. Nicholas and Krampus is a dualistic one, representing the balance between good and evil. While St. Nicholas rewards virtue, Krampus serves as a disciplinary figure, ensuring that children behave appropriately. In some traditions, St. Nicholas and Krampus are said to work together, with St. Nicholas providing gifts to the good children, while Krampus administers chastisement to the naughty ones. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, Krampus became a more prominent figure in European holiday traditions. Postcards featuring Krampus illustrations gained popularity, depicting the creature in various menacing poses. These postcards often conveyed a playful and humorous tone, combining the fearsome with the festive. However, the mid-20th century saw a decline in the celebration of Krampus in many regions. As Christmas became more commercialized and family-friendly, the darker aspects of Krampus were downplayed or abandoned altogether. In some areas, efforts were made to suppress Krampus traditions completely. But in recent years, there has been a resurgence of interest in Krampus celebrations, both in Europe and beyond. Festivals and parades dedicated to Krampus have gained popularity, attracting locals and tourists alike. This could potentially be a reaction to the Americanization of the Christmas holiday and the uniform commercialization that comes with it. This can also be seen in Northern Europe, with a resurgent interest in the Northern Germanic and Norse festival of Yule. The modern revival often emphasizes the theatrical and whimsical aspects of Krampus, with elaborate costumes and performances. Krampus has a deep and fascinating history rooted in Alpine folklore. Originating from pagan traditions, this horned figure has evolved over centuries, embodying the dualistic nature of the holiday season. He is also akin to other southern and eastern European or Alpine horned or furry entities, such as the Buso-Jarash of Hungary. There is also a tradition in Bulgaria and Croatia called the Koledovane, performed by the Koledari, who don theatrical costumes and make loud music and chants to scare away winter entities, such as vampires or werewolves, or the evil of winter itself. Despite attempts to suppress or sanitize its image, Krampus has experienced a cultural revival in recent years, reclaiming its place in festive celebrations and adding a touch of dark whimsy to the Christmas season. And it's certainly good to see such traditions survive. Perchta, also known as Frau Perchta or Berchta, is a striking figure in Alpine folklore, particularly in Germanic and Austrian traditions. She is often depicted as a supernatural being associated with the winter season and is believed to play a dual role as both a benevolent and malevolent force. Perchta, whose name may mean the bright one and possibly stems from the Proto-Germanic Bertas, is commonly linked to the period known as the 12 Nights, which spans from Christmas to Epiphany. During this time it is said that Perchta roams the countryside, observing human behaviour. She is associated with matters of fate and is believed to reward or punish individuals based on their conduct. The benevolent aspect of Perchta is associated with rewarding good behaviour, particularly when it comes to domestic chores. In some traditions, she is said to enter homes during the 12 nights, checking the cleanliness of households. Those who maintained tidy homes and completed their work diligently were rewarded with silver coins or other blessings. Conversely, like fellow Alpine winter entity Krampus, Perchta has a more ominous side. She is sometimes portrayed as a figure who punishes those who are lazy, disobedient or neglectful of their duties. In some tales, she is said to slit open the bellies of lazy servants, removing their organs and stuffing them with straw. This grim aspect of Perchta serves as a cautionary element in folklore, emphasizing the importance of hard work and responsibility. Perchta is often depicted wearing a white robe or dress, symbolizing the purity of freshly fallen snow, and she may be accompanied by a retinue of strange, otherworldly beings, reminiscent of dwarves or gnomes. The imagery associated with Perchta varies across different regions, reflecting the diversity of beliefs within Alpine folklore. As with many figures in folklore, the stories of Perchta have evolved over time, blending pre-Christian traditions with Christian influences. Perchta is, as the name suggests, linked with the historic practice of Perchtenlauf, a festive parade that takes place in the winter months, often centred around the winter solstice or the 12 nights, spanning the period from Christmas to Epiphany. At the heart of this celebration is the belief in the existence of ancient pagan spirits associated with the untamed forces of nature, such as death and rebirth. The Perchtenlauf is a spectacle of both awe and intrigue, where participants don elaborate masks and costumes that mirror wild, grotesque and at times demonic figures. These costumes are adorned with bells, fur and intricate designs that evoke a sense of mystique. The participants become vessels embodying these otherworldly entities, a living manifestation of a tradition that has endured through generations. The concept of dualism is present again, with the purpose of the Perchtenlauf symbolic of its profound cultural significance. On one hand, the parade serves as a ritualistic act to expel malevolent spirits that are believed to linger during the winter months. The menacing appearance of the Perchten is thought to instill fear in these spirits, ensuring their banishment and, consequently, safeguarding the community from illness and misfortune. On the other hand, the Perchtenlauf is a harbinger of positive energies and prosperity for the coming year. The intricate dance of the Perchten becomes a symbolic exorcism, purging the old to make way for the new. In some variations of the tradition, there are benevolent Perchten as well, representing the positive forces associated with fertility and the promise of abundance. To comprehend the roots of Perchten, one must delve into the ancient pagan beliefs that form the foundation of this cultural phenomenon. These mythical beings are not arbitrary creations, but are deeply entwined with the reverence and fear that early societies held for the natural world. The rugged terrain of the Alps, with its harsh winters and unpredictable conditions, fostered a connection between the people and the elemental forces that shaped their lives. As the seasons shifted and the harshness of winter set in, communities sought ways to appease and confront the spirits that were perceived to govern the changing climate. The notion of spirits associated with the seasons is a recurring theme in many ancient cultures. These spirits were neither wholly benevolent nor malevolent. Instead, they embodied the dual nature of nature itself, both life-giving and destructive. The Perchtenlauf, in its origins, was a communal effort to engage with these spirits, to acknowledge their presence, and to negotiate a harmonious coexistence. Masks and costumes were not mere disguises, but tools to channel the energies of these spirits. The ritualistic nature of the parade allowed participants to step into the liminal space between the human and the supernatural, the living and the dead, embodying the forces they sought to either appease or drive away. Over time, the Christianization of the Alpine regions influenced the Perchtan traditions, assimilating them into the evolving tapestry of local festivities. Elements of pre-Christian rituals merged with Christian celebrations, creating a unique syncretism that has endured through the ages. The Perchtanlauf, once a pagan rite, now bears the imprints of both ancient beliefs and Christian symbolism. The coexistence of pagan and Christian elements is evident in the timing of the Perchtanlauf, often coinciding with the 12 Nights, a period that bridges Christmas and Epiphany. This temporal alignment reflects the adaptability of cultural practices as they evolve and incorporate new layers of meaning. The 12 Nights, traditionally associated with various supernatural beliefs, provided a fitting backdrop for the Perchtan festivities. The evolution of Perchtan from purely pagan spirits to the multifaceted figures in the Perchtanlauf underscores the dynamic and evolving nature of historic cultural traditions. While rooted in the ancient animistic beliefs of the Alpine communities, Perchtan have transformed into symbolic entities that embody the complex interplay between nature, spirituality, and community identity. Regional variations in Perchtan traditions add further nuance to the narrative as different communities infuse the celebrations with their unique cultural expressions. The symbolism attached to the costumes, the specific rituals performed, and even the names given to the Perchtan can vary significantly from one Alpine village to another. For instance, in some regions the Perchtanlauf takes on a more theatrical character, with intricate narratives woven into the parade. These narratives often revolve around the eternal struggle between good and evil, with the Perchtan embodying the elemental forces that shape the world. The participatory nature of the parade allows communities to actively engage with their cultural heritage, reinforcing a sense of continuity. The costumes themselves become artifacts of cultural significance, often crafted with meticulous detail and passed down through generations. Each element of the costume, the choice of materials, the design of the mask, the arrangement of bells, carries layers of meaning that connect the present with the past. The act of donning these costumes becomes a ritualistic journey in and of itself. But as with any cultural tradition, the Perchtanlauf faces the challenge of maintaining its authenticity in the face of modernization. The commercialization of festivals, the impact of globalization, and shifting demographics pose threats to the continuity of age-old practices. Yet the resilience of the Perchtanlauf and Perchta herself lie in their ability to adapt without losing their core essence. But I think the Winter Witch of the Alps has plenty of life in her yet. Despite some quite sinister and pagan origins, the Nuutipuki, a fascinating winter character rooted in Finnish folklore, has become an intriguing symbol of the Christmas and New Year season. Also known as the Christmas goat or Yule goat, this sinister figure has a history and cultural significance that has evolved over the centuries. The origins of Nuutipuki date back to pre-Christian times when pagans in Scandinavia celebrated the winter solstice with various rituals. The goat, associated by some with the Norse god Thor, was a symbol of fertility and strength. But, owing to the time of year, the animals could also be associated with Odin and his various successor characters, such as the folkloric character Old Christmas, who, according to legend, rode one of the beasts. As Christianity swept across the region, these pagan customs merged with Christian traditions, and the Yule goat found a place in Christmas festivities. One popular legend links Nuutipuki to St. Knut's Day, observed on January 13th. According to folklore, Nuutipuki would roam the streets during this time, embodying a mischievous and in some cases evil spirit. The character, often portrayed as a person in a goat costume, would play pranks and demand gifts and leftover Yule food from people. In the 19th century, the Yule goat underwent a transformation as it became associated with gift-giving. Families would choose a Nuutipuki figure made of straw, wood or other materials to represent the spirit of Christmas. This decorative goat often took a place of honour in homes, symbolising good fortune and protection. In some regions, the tradition included dressing up as a Nuutipuki to visit neighbours and exchange small gifts. The Yule goat has also been linked to the figure of Julipuki, the Finnish Santa Claus. In some areas, these two characters were initially considered one and the same, both representing the spirit of Christmas and gift-giving. Over time, the roles diversified, with Julipuki adopting a more benevolent and gift-bearing persona, while Nuutipuki retained its mischievous, evil and playful nature. This dualism is similar to the partnership of Krampus and St. Nicholas in Alpine traditions. The connection between Nuutipuki and Christmas gifts is evident in the tradition of joululahjat, or Christmas presents. Families exchange gifts, often placing them under a Christmas tree adorned with ornaments, including miniature Yule goats. The symbolism of the Yule goat extends beyond just gift-giving, touching on deeper cultural and historical themes. The goat's association with agriculture and prosperity reflects the importance of livestock in Finnish rural life, especially at this time of year. Nutipuki can be seen as embodying the spirit of the harvest, celebrating abundance and the promise of a prosperous new year. In contemporary Finland, Nutipuki remains an enduring part of Christmas festivities. The fearsome Kallikantsaroi, a fascinating aspect of Greek and wider Balkan folklore, spans centuries. The monster, known in English as the Christmas vampire, stems from ancient beliefs passed down through generations. The origins of the Kallikantsaroi can be traced back to ancient times, and a blend of pagan and Christian influences shaped the folklore to the present. The name Kallikantsaros is derived from the Greek words kalos, beautiful, and kanterein, to cut or rend, and the entities are not just confined to Greece, with similar beings established as part of the mythology of Bulgaria, Turkey, Serbia, Albania, Bosnia, and Cyprus. Their appearance is often described as grotesque and deformed, and, according to legend, they have a tendency to cut down the mythical world tree. According to folklore, Kallikantsaroi are believed to reside beneath the Earth's surface, trapped there for most of the year, emerging during the 12 days of Christmas from December the 25th to January the 6th. They wreak havoc in the mortal realm. The connection to the Christmas season is significant, being a liminal time of the dead. One aspect of the story is that Kallikantsaroi are born from the souls of people who have died around Christmas, but were not properly buried and had committed heinous deeds. These souls are condemned to spend eternity as these ghoulish creatures, surfacing only during the midwinter period from the winter solstice. The Kallikantsaroi are depicted as humanoid beings, often with animalistic features and a frightening appearance. Some accounts describe them as having donkey ears, long tails, and coal-blackened faces, whereas other depictions are of pale, goblin-like entities. Their grotesque appearance served as a warning in folklore, deterring individuals from engaging in immoral or sinful behaviour. And their mischievous activities during their time on Earth include cutting down the world tree, believed to support the cosmos. This act is thought to bring chaos to the mortal realm, disrupting the natural order of things. To counteract their influence, various rituals and customs have evolved over the centuries to protect households from the Kallikantsaroi. One such preventative measure involves burning a Yule log throughout the 12 days of Christmas. The fire is believed to keep the creatures at bay, preventing them from entering homes and causing trouble. Additionally, various charms, songs, amulets and rituals are employed to ward off these malevolent beings, including leaving special donut-like desserts called lukumadis out, or putting sausages on the roof. The connection between Kallikantsaroi and the world tree has parallels in other mythologies worldwide, and the idea of beings or forces trying to destroy a cosmic tree is a recurring theme, symbolising the constant struggle between chaos and order, the Chaoskampf. As Christianity spread throughout Greece, the Kallikantsaroi myth adapted to incorporate Christian elements. The creatures were sometimes linked to demonic entities or even portrayed as followers of Satan. This syncretism allowed the folklore to persist despite the dominance of the new faith. The culmination of the Kallikantsaroi's mischief occurs on the Epiphany, also known as Theophany in the Eastern Orthodox Christian tradition. On this day it is believed that the creatures disappear, returning to their subterranean lair. The Epiphany is a significant celebration in Greece, marked by the blessing of the waters and various rituals to purify homes and protect against malevolent forces. The history of the Kallikantsaroi myth is a fascinating example of the intertwined nature of pagan folklore and Christian cultural traditions. How the little piglets would grunt if they knew how the old boar suffers. Allegedly among the final words of the semi-legendary Viking warrior Ragnar Lothbrok before he was cast into the Anglo-Saxon King of Northumbria Aile's snake pit. This was certainly how the History Channel show Vikings portrayed Ragnar's final moments, although I wouldn't hold much store by that. But it is certainly a colourful phrase, dripping with portentous threat for the fate of Aile at the hands of the sons of Ragnar and the great heathen army that attacked England in 865 AD. Legend states that this retribution involved the Northumbrian monarch being blood-eagled, a particularly gruesome fabled punishment dished out by the Norsemen. Whether this happened or not, or whether Ragnar even existed or uttered the words about a boar being avenged by his young piglet offspring, does not matter. It is the invocation of the boar that is significant and primal in the mythology of the Norse, the Germanic tribes, and further back in history, a lot further back in history. Boars are no mere pigs. They represent a powerful warrior aspect and embody a protective power and kinship that has persisted for centuries and still remains. The powerful creatures appear in Paleolithic cave art and in Neolithic reliefs. They also feature in the 11,600-year-old structure at Göbekli Tepe. And the boar was worshipped, or at least the object of ritualistic practices in so-called Old Europe before the coming of the Indo-European Yamnaya. A discovery at Vertiba Cave in the Borchiv region of western Ukraine in 2023 revealed an ancient Bronze Age boar cult among the Cucuteni Tripilia culture that appeared to have been harking back to an older religion. Boar remains had previously but rarely been discovered at Tripilian sites linked with possible ancient funerary customs. The find was a series of 5 goddess statues that were sheltered by boar tusks. The goddess-led culture, which dominated a wide swathe of Eastern Europe encompassing modern Ukraine, Moldova and Romania, from the late Neolithic to the Copper Age, from 6000 to 2750 BC, appeared to be appealing to an older deity to help them, possibly to ward off the predations of the encroaching Yamnaya horsemen. Archaeologist Mikhailo Sakatsky of the Borchiv Regional Museum said of the discoveries, female figurines are not rare in Tripilian contexts, and hordes of figurines are known, but these were sheltered by the tusks of a wild boar. But the boar was particularly revered among their enemies, the then onrushing Indo-European peoples and their descendants. The foundation myth of the Greek and Roman city Ephesus in modern-day Turkey sees the city built atop the site where Prince Androclus of Athens slew a boar. Again in Greek mythology, the fourth labour of Heracles was to bring the Erymanthian boar alive to Aristaeus in Mycenae. The feat was seen as a worthy challenge for one of Greece's greatest heroes, as the immense shaggy-haired beast had foaming jaws and was wild and dangerous. Another story tells of the Caledonian boar hunt as one of the great heroic adventures in Greek legend. In that example, the beast had been sent by the goddess Artemis to wreak havoc on Caledon because King Oeneus had failed to honour her in his rites to the gods. And the boar is regularly seen as sacred to mother goddesses in Iron Age Europe, with examples among the Celts. The Celtic Gundestrup cauldron, which dates from 300 to 200 BC, features depictions of boar-crested helmets and lures. The element of the challenging hunting of boars was continued by the Romans, for whom they were seen as a praea invidia, or prey worthy of envy. But it was among the Germanic tribes that the boar took on even greater potent symbolic significance. This was certainly the case in pre-Viking Vendel-era Sweden from around 540 to 790 AD. A series of helmets show boar-like decorations, with finds coming from the Valsgard boat graves, close to the culturally and spiritually significant site of Gamla Uppsala in Sweden. The graves could have belonged to members of the powerful Yngling dynasty, which appears in Beowulf and was, according to mythology, descended from the god Freyr. The boat burials in Sweden are almost identical to the Sutton Hoo boat burial in England, and the similarities do not end there, but more on that later. The Germanic boar helmets were believed to offer protection from enemy combatants to the wearer, but also much more. They were believed by many to be conduits by which the wearer would skin change and become the aspect of the creature. This animist and shamanistic origin idea is similar to the Ulfhednar or berserkers who would become bears or wolves following ritual incantations and dancing. They were strongly associated with Freyr, whose descendants it was once believed occupied the immense burial mounds of Gamla Uppsala. Freyr means lord, and was the principal figure of the Vanir fertility gods, although he dwelt among the Aesir. He was said to live in Alfheimr and had a golden boar named Gullimbursti which pulled his chariot. These facets, the golden boar and chariot, are powerful Indo-European symbols associated with the sun and fertility of the land, the animals and people. The 13th century Icelandic chronicler Snorri Sturluson wrote of the god, "Freyr is the noblest of the Aesir. He governs rain and sunshine and so the produce of the earth, and it is good to pray to him for prosperity and peace. He also looks after the wealth of men." The deity, who was depicted with an enormous phallus, itself a sign of fertility and masculine prowess, was intrinsically linked with Gamla Uppsala, where he was worshipped at a great temple alongside Odin and Thor. The lurid and probably embellished account of the 11th century chronicler Adam of Bremen in his Gesta Hammerborgensis Ecclesiae Pontificum highlights the association and the importance of the site. It read, "Now I shall say something of the superstition of the Swedes. That people have a very famous temple called Uppsala, not far from the town of Sigtuna. In that temple, which is wholly adorned with gold, the people worship the statues of 3 gods, of which the mightiest, Thor, sits in the middle of a triple throne. Wodan, Odin, and Friko, Freyr, sit on either side. The following are the meanings of the three. Thor, they reckon, rules the sky. He governs thunder and lightning, winds and storms, fine weather and fertility. The second is Wodan, that is, frenzy. He rules war and gives people strength against the enemy. The third is Friko, or Freyr, who grants peace and sensual delight to mortal men. They depict his image with a huge erect phallus, but they carve Woden in armour, as our people depict Mars, and Thor with his mace looks like Jupiter. They also worship gods who were once men, whom they reckon to be immortal because of their heroic acts. For each of their gods they have appointed priests to offer up the sacrifices of the people. If plague or famine threatens, there is a sacrifice to the image of Thor, if war, to Odin, if a marriage is to be held, to Friko. Moreover, every 9 years there is a communal festival of every province of Sweden held at Uppsala, and no one is granted an exemption from the ceremony. Everyone, including commoners and kings, sends their offerings to Uppsala, and, what is crueler than any punishment, those already converted to Christianity have to buy themselves off from the ceremonies. The sacrifice proceeds as follows. 9 males of every living creature are offered up, and it is customary to placate the gods with their blood. Their corpses are hung in the grove next to the temple. That grove is so sacred to the heathens that every single tree is considered to be divine, thanks to the death or rotting carcass of the sacrificed. They hang dogs and horses there alongside men. One Christian told me that he had seen 72 corpses of various kinds hanging there. In addition, the empty songs with which they conduct this sacrificial rite are so many and disgusting that it is best to pass over them in silence. Close to the temple there is a vast tree with its branches spreading far and wide, evergreen both in summer and winter. There is also a spring there, where pagan sacrifices are held. A man is flung into the spring alive. If he fails to resurface, the wish of the people will be fulfilled. The temple is surrounded by a golden chain hanging from the building's gables and plainly visible from far away to those approaching, since the shrine itself is found on a level plain surrounded by hills like an amphitheatre. These feasts and sacrifices last 9 days. Each day they sacrifice a man with the other animals, so that in 9 days a total of 72 creatures are sacrificed. The sacrifice takes place about the time of the spring equinox." End quote. The concept of the boar as a warrior entity appeared in both Old Norse and Old English or Anglo-Saxon contexts. It appeared as engravings on swords as well as shield designs and, most notably, on helmets. These include a number of Anglo-Saxon examples, like the Benty Grange and Sutton Hoo helmets, that were believed to transform the wearer into bestial porcine entities in the same way as the Ulfhednar or berserkers were rendered as wolves or bears when they donned their pelts. These were very similar to those found in Sweden, indicating a shared culture between these closely related Germanic tribes. Other Northern European Indo-European cultures also held the boar in similar esteem. Tacitus claimed the Baltic Aesti had helmets with boar motifs and also wore boar masks. The Roman historian also revealed boar worship, or at least boar reverence, among the Celts, with the creatures being viewed as sacred animals. The continental Celtic fertility deity Moccus, linked by the Romans to Mercury, was a boar god, and the insular Celtic god Veteris was also associated with the animals. Added to this, the Welsh hero Celhóc was said to have been sired by a boar god. The boar aspect was significant into medieval and early modern times too, and, as we shall see, is still relevant today. One example is the Boar's Head Carol, which I have seen performed by medieval reenactors, though sadly I was a child at the time and therefore don't have any footage of it. But the 15th century carol is a perfect demonstration of the significance of the animal that has earlier pagan roots. As carols are, it is a Christmas, or rather Yuletide, tradition. The distinction between the two, now interchangeable festivities, is significant here. The eponymous head would be presented during a feast and would be hallooed by the accompanying song. According to folklorists, the song was likely introduced to England by the Anglo-Saxons, despite its becoming more widely known during the later medieval period. It is strongly associated with the 26th of December feast of Stephen, being Saint Stephen, and it is here that our old friend Freyr returns. The Yuletide celebrations enacted during the feast were previously associated with Freyr, who was known as Yngwie to the Anglo-Saxons, and St. Stephen was, in both Scandinavia and England, a substitute for Freyr, a Germanic god given the acceptable varnish of a Christian martyr. In the Norse conception of the ritual, a sacrificed boar would be an invocation of Freyr, a plea for favourable treatment in the new year to come. The lyrics to the chorus of the carol go, "Caput apre defero, the boar's head I bear, Redens laudes Domino, rendering praises to the Lord. The Christian veneer can make this appear as your standard carol, praising God as the Lord that is mentioned, but, as previously discussed, Yngwi, the Saxon name for Freyr, meant Lord too. The practice of hunting boars for prestige continued into the Tudor period, with Henry VIII owning hundreds of boar spears. And the animals appeared on heraldic motifs of medieval and later periods and continue in ceremonial art to this day. An example of this is in the heraldry of Queen Camilla, which featured on the official invitation to hers and King Charles III's recent coronation. The press release that accompanied the publication of the invitation read, "A lion, a unicorn and a boar, taken from the coats of arms of the monarch and Her Majesty's father, Major Bruce Shand, can be seen amongst the flowers." And finally, the name The Boar's Head is still appended to 39 pubs in the United Kingdom, according to a survey of common pub names by the Pubs Galore website. As I've stated before, these old habits die hard in Britain. Freyr, or the even older god he is derived from, and his associated boar, is still lurking around every corner. But that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly subscribe. And you can also support the channel on Subscribestar via the link in the description, or via YouTube Super Thanks. Thanks for watching, and Merry Christmas.